Hey, you're listening to Live at WREK here on WREK Atlanta. In the studio with us, we have Flohr. You want to say hi?
Hey. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this
Appreciate
is awesome. Yeah. So you're playing a modular synthesizer. For the people out there, what is a modular synthesizer?
So there's a video that'll be available later, so I might make gestures for the radio listeners. Just ignore when I'm pointing. So I have a modular here. This is a WREK modular synthesizer. I'm also using a sampler, a drum machine that's not a modular, and then another little semi-modular synth, and a mixer and some pedals. So not everything on the table and not everything that you're hearing is modular. But the main kind of heart of this system that I play is a modular synthesizer, which, to answer the original question without the disclaimer, what is a modular synthesizer? Basically, I think of it as a system for making music, which is made up of components, which we call modules, which are individual little units that different manufacturers or individuals make. There's a big DIY community as well as the companies that produce these things. And what you do is you buy a case and a power supply of some kind, and then you just attach these to that case, typically with screws. You screw them in. And then the way they connect to each other is like almost always, with some kind of rare exceptions, with patch cables. So it doesn't do anything unless you plug cables in. So unlike a typical synthesizer, a keyboard, you can't just press a key and have it make sound. You have to connect everything yourself. So that's kind of the basics. Do you have another follow-up or?
Yeah, I mean, how does one get into this? Like, this is a daunting hobby.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a very logical extension of working with guitar pedals. I was a guitarist first and foremost. That was my first instrument, and I was always interested in using pedals to change the sound of my guitar. And, I'd known vocalists and other people who'd used pedals for that, and I tried running some, like, cheap little crappy keyboard, like I don't know if it was a Yamaha or a Casio, one of those just like preset, with like xylophones. And I tried one, like a dollar store keyboard. I tried running one of those through pedals, thinking maybe that could make cool sounds, and I wasn't super happy with that. And then I got into computer stuff, right? And in a DAW, like I started out with Fruity Loops. They call it FL Studio now, and I still use it to this day. But Ableton Live, there's tons of things. You can make all kinds of sounds on the computer, and typically what you do is you run different things through other things, right? So this to me is just like a much more kind of homespun, like workshop, like somebody, an inventor in their garage version of that, basically. And I got into it really because there was a store that sold it in New York where I lived. So I wish Atlanta had a store like that. We don't yet. We might soon. Who knows? I'm not going to say anything specific, but that opens up. People say, well, there isn't a need for it, but you bring something like that into a community and it generates a need. Because I didn't think I wanted this stuff until I walked into Control in Brooklyn and they had it, and I was like, what is this? And I remember I was excited, but I also thought it was kind of stupid. Like Rob, who works there, he's a great dude, very patient and a really great artist in his own right, and in addition to being a good salesman and a nice guy. I remember asking him, because there was drum stuff, and I was like, why would you make drum beats with this? Like, that's so stupid. Like, why wouldn't you just do a step sequencer like on a computer? It's so much easier. And he was like, showed me how you like take a clock and then you have to divide. It's like blinking lights, and then you have to like pick the blinking lights that are like, there's jacks next to blinking lights, and then you pick the ones that are moving at the rate that you want, and then you patch them into things, and those make drums, and then you have sounds, and then you have a beat. And it seemed like the most convoluted, like Rube Goldberg machine like way to make music. But over time, I just started to really love it. And at the end of the day, for me, because people will like, I do a lot of YouTube and Instagram, and like people will comment like, can't you just do this on a computer? And like a lot of times, yeah, you could. Like technically, you can do anything on a computer. I mean, it's the most powerful electronic instrument, and possibly the most powerful instrument, I guess, ever made, right? A laptop, a kid with a laptop. But do you want to? Like,
yeah.
And will you? And also you get weird synergies where things are cycling in relation to other things. And I don't find that as easy to do in a computer or like a drum machine as you do here. So, yeah.
So for the listeners out there, there's probably 200 different plugs, like in total, that you could use on this like huge setup. How do you even just like navigate it a lot of the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people ask me because I also, because of just the size of the case I have, I can't come to a show patched. So I always come with an empty case. The modules are in there, but like the actual cable connections that he's talking about are not done until I get to the show or the recording session. And so people have asked me, do you make notes or whatever? And honestly, at this point, I kind of have like a mental map of where everything is. And like, also it's like, not to get too philosophical, but I think there's like fundamental like functions that things like, and so I don't even really think about like which particular connection I'm making. I'm more like working at the level of what functions need to be happening. Mm-hmm. And because I know this system so well, and also this isn't something I just bought from somebody like this. Like I've handpicked every single thing in here, and so I know them all really well. The ones I don't know as well, I may not even use. Like tonight, I have one or two new ones that I'm not even going to touch because it takes a while. It's like a new instrument. Mm. You don't go play a show the first time. You buy a violin and decide you're going to play a show that night. It doesn't really work that way. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. And then I also sometimes will just go freeform, and so we're going to do that after the break. After this break, I'm going to walk you guys through a patch and just do it as I go. Mm. So
what's the live experience like? I mean, people have seen like electronic artists, and like this is like the original synthesizer, basically. Like this is how when people invented synthesizers, they kind of did it more like this, I guess. But what is a live show, like a modular synthesizer live show, like? Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting you say that. I'll sort of answer the middle of your question first, and then answer the part of the live show. So this, in a way, yeah. So the original, people think of synthesizers, they think keyboards, but keyboards are like kind of a keyboard is late on the scene in terms of the history of synthesis. So like there were synthesizers way before there were keyboards, and a lot of the early ones looked more like a switchboard, or like a switchboard operator, or like laboratory equipment. And one of Bob Moog, one of his big innovations was attaching a keyboard, and eventually coming up with the Mini Moog, which everybody loves, the Model D. But before that, it was modular, and this has a lot in common with those early ones. It's a lot smaller, though. That's one thing. The earlier ones, they could take up a whole room, and a university may have one or something, but like an individual, it was very hard to get them. So this is also a lot cheaper, and there's actually a lot of digital components. So one of the misnomers that people think it's analog, and a lot of my stuff is analog, but actually, like everything we were listening to had some. Actually a digital sound source as its origin, either a sample player or a wavetable oscillator, which is is running off of a microchip. And I mention that just to say that part of what's really driving this innovation and modular part of the boom is all the cell phone technology and like mobile devices, because there's like new chips and little screens and like components, and I think music technology is always shaped by the mass consumer technology and the kind of global zeitgeist. But in terms of the live show, I mean, honestly, they're really different. It depends upon the artist. And like one of the things I'm also passionate about is like, there's no such thing as modular music as a genre. And that's why I have no patience for snobbery about what counts. Like you can make anything. You can make trap on a modular. You can make, if you really wanted to, you could try to do some country western or bluegrass on a modular.
I'd like to see it.
I'm about it. I'm into the idea of modular hootenannies, like doing little, and I think it is kind of a folk instrument in a way, but like for real, like some people do beat sets, like they do techno, so it's almost like a DJ set. And then other people, it's very avant-garde, similar to earlier avant-garde modular music, early synthesizer music, either like radiophonic workshop stuff or like Silver Apples on the Moon, Morton Subotnick, and Suzanne Ciani and stuff like that. So sometimes more melodic, like her work, or atonal. Some of it's very drone heavy and psychedelic. Some of it is very abrasive, industrial sounding. There's a lot of noise artists, but also, like I said, techno, and people play them at like yoga in LA. There's there's these lunchtime audio, like bliss out stuff, it's and then people do the most insane harsh noise, and everything in between, so I think it really depends upon the performer and what they're trying to do, and a lot of it is solo performances, but I'm really into groups. So I've been on here live at WREK with my friend Christian, and we play together, and I have a project called Fictions where we both have modulars, and I would want to do more like band stuff with modular, not just like the lone synth weirdo. Yeah. Anyway.
So you have a live show coming up too, right?
Yeah, I actually have a few things to plug before we get back to the music. So, let's see. I have too many things, but one big one coming up. So first of all, I'm on a label that's an Atlanta-based label called VLSC, Volta Laboratory Social Club, VLSC Records, and I just put out, speaking of Fictions, we put out an album on VLSC a few weeks ago, and had an album release show here in Atlanta, which was awesome, because that was originally a New York-based project, but we had Mike come down and from New York, and we did a show here, and we recorded another album. So we just released one that we recorded last summer, and then we're working on the mastering of the one we recorded while he was here, and then. So that's on VLSC. The next release on the label is from Treppenwitz. I don't know how German they want to be, but it's the Shorts EP, and that is with Dylan Banks and Colin Mulligan. And Dylan and I actually had a record we put out in August called Receiver, and that's also on VLSC. But then Dylan and Colin have this Treppenwitz project, which has a release party at 529 on the 7th with Mesa and Charo Lastra. So that's the next big thing with VLSC. And then I've got a few shows coming up. Just Intonation is a benefit concert series that I do with Sister Psy. So far we're doing it at Java Monkey, so it's pretty low key, kind of like ambient coffee house vibes. And this one's going to be raising money for the Atlanta Food Bank, and that's going to be on November 11th. And I'm collabing for the first time with Psy, so I'm excited about that. She'll be doing cello, and I'm going to do modular. And then Nerd Queen is playing, and Ezra Buchla, who's actually Don Buchla's son.
Yeah.
Which is
that's wild,
insane. Yeah, and it's Psy and him are friends, and I was like, is that like the Ezra Buchla? She was like, I don't know, maybe. And then she asked him, and we were like, ah! So yeah, anyway, that's happening November 11th at Java Monkey. That's a free show, but all donations will go to the Atlanta Food Bank. And then my biggest thing coming up is I'm opening for DJ Rum at Music Room on the 17th, Friday the 17th, which is going to be crazy. I'm going to do very much beat and modular music, so more like a DJ type thing, but it's still gonna be pretty ambient, and I'm opening that one up, so really excited about that. Oh, and last one to plug is my friend the Glad Scientist is doing an album release with Lil Data from PC Music at Aisle 5 on the 28th.
Heck yeah, dude.
Anyway, sorry, that was a ton of stuff.
The modular community is alive.
The
synthesizer community.
Last two plugs. Atlanta Synthesizer Club. Check us out on Facebook. I'm an admin, and it's a great group of people. We're all just really passionate about what we do, and it's an open community, lots of different styles, and also it's not all hardcore or modular or analog or whatever. It's software, and we talk about everything. We're really, it's an open-minded group. We're not snobs, so all are welcome. We do synth meets. We did one here at Georgia Tech. We're going to do more in the future, and check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, and also on the 11th, the day of the show with Just Intonation and Job Monkey. Earlier in that day, the Synth Club is doing a thing with Everyman, I think his name is, the street artist, on the Beltline. They're going to be doing like live synth stuff somewhere at his tea house. It's like near Ponce City Market. And then my last plug, sorry, so many things. Last one is I am releasing a solo ambient record. I guess today is my announcement. I'm officially announcing it on WREK, on Live at WREK. So it's going to come out sometime in the next few weeks, probably in November on VLSC, and it's called A Prayer for New Time. So,
Heck yeah. Thanks so much. So you want to do like a little like lesson, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. So, and then just cut me off when we run out of time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to unpatch everything, and then can I move this mic slightly?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. And then I still need to be close to it so you can hear me, right?
You can be a little bit farther away if you want to, actually.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Still? Okay, cool. So I am going to just unplug everything and start from scratch. And sort of explain a little bit of what I'm doing with this thing. And also, give an example of the type of stuff you can do, specifically like what I was talking about, where there's interactive elements that are being generated by each other, which is hard to do in other musical environments, but Modular makes it very easy. So,
for those out there, he is unplugging approximately 35 cables right now, which is, I like it a lot. This is good stuff.
You can hear my cable file. So first things first, we'll get an oscillator going.
What is an oscillator?
So an oscillator is a circuit that generates a tone of some kind. And it can be an analog circuit or it can be DSP running off of a chip. So this is a digital oscillator. And I'm taking an output from that and running it into this low pass gate. So this oscillator is called Tides. Turn my reverb and delay off for a second. So this is Tides, and this is from Mutable Instruments, and it's actually running an alternate firmware, which is a big thing in the whole digital explosion in Modular, is that you can flash different programs onto these things and make them do different things. So this guy outputs sound, and these knobs change the timbre or the pitch, but I'm not going to adjust that because I already tuned. So anyway, I plugged that into a low pass gate, which is the Optimix from Make Noise. And basically, without plugging anything in, if I just turn this knob down, it turns the volume down, but also the high frequency content gets attenuated. So it's kind of like a filter. And so one way of thinking about this is like a VCA, voltage controlled amplifier, and a VCF, voltage controlled filter combined. But they call it a low pass gate. And so if we patch a function from maths into this, we lost the sound because there's nothing playing from the function generator. If I unplug it, we'll hear the sound again. And now in order to get sound, I have to hit it with something. So I'll cycle this. And now we've got a looping envelope, which is going to open the low pass gate at a certain rate, right? So the patch I want to demonstrate today is called a Krell Patch. So I'll give you the atonal version first, because that's the traditional one, and then I'll show you how I like to do it, which is quantized to a pitch. But we've got our basic tone now, and then what we want to do is sequence that, so it's not just the same note going on and on forever. So what I'm going to do, well, first of all, if I didn't have it cycling from this, right, if we go back to wide open, if I hit the frequency with the random voltage, it's going to sound like this. So it's like easy to get old school computer, like from like a sci-fi, you know. But it's like pretty hard to listen to. It's pretty harsh. So one thing we can do is have that cycle of random notes controlled by this cycling envelope. This is the kind of thing, I've never seen this in anything besides Modular. Like, to do this on a computer, I don't even know I have no idea how to do that. Like, that's the thing. There's super basic stuff you do, and that everybody does on a Modular, that you can do on anything. And so people will hear you do that and then go, oh, well, why are you using Modular to do that? And it's like, well, okay, I'm not only using it to do that, I'm also using it to do this. And it's like, as you go down the rabbit hole, then you're like, oh, there's no way to do that. So I'm taking a clock output, which is timed with this cycle. So as this thing speeds up and slows down, if I adjust it, the clock changes with it. It's an analog circuit, so there's no latency or anything. And if I actually clock that random voltage from there, then now when I patch that back into the pitch of my oscillator, so if you want to get into like West Coast, like just random weirdness, this is like throw a spring reverb on here. Yeah. So that's cool, but we're not in Krell yet. So to get this into Krell territory, what we do is we take that random that's being clocked by the cycle, and then we use that to control the speed of the cycle. Now we'll put our delay back on. So that's pretty crazy. But anyway, that's all with random. So what I do instead is I patch the clock into a quantizer. And let's... and we feed that quantizer a random voltage. So already it's sounding a little more melodic, less random, but still low notes cause the cycle to slow down, high notes cause the cycle to speed up. We add some other timbral modulation. Yeah, so that's like the kind of patch that I would make that I would have a very hard time doing on the computer. And I could have drums getting clocked by this. I could have, you know, my effects that are also being synced and clocked. So a big thing that I like about Modular is that you can tap different segments or sections of your patch and use them to kind of like branch out and make the rest of the track all out of these interrelated elements. So, yep.
Thanks so much. This is awesome.
Are we about out of time, or?
We're running a little bit of time. You want to do anything else before we end up?
Yeah, why don't I just keep adding stuff
Yes,
if that's cool with you?
Of course.
Yep. So what I'm going to do now, this is all just one voice, right? It's one oscillator. So now I'm going to add a second oscillator. All right. Thanks.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. That was Flohr here on WREK Atlanta, live at WREK. You can tune in every Tuesday at 10 p.m. to hear the best in local, sometimes not local, live music. Next week is the one and only Fever Monkey. It's going to be cool. As always, you can check out previous Live at WREK performances on YouTube if you search Live at WREK. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.